All right, hello everyone. This is Mr. Crozier, and I wanted to help you with problem number 6 from our homework. It is graph the function y is equal to sine of 2x minus 3. Hopefully you have your reference sheet to go back over stuff, and here we go. First thing we want to do is match up and find the amplitude period, phase shift, and midline. So you should be able to make this table for all of your sine graphs, and here we go. First off is the amplitude, that's variable a. So if I bring this down, there's nothing there, but we say there's a 1 there. So our amplitude is 1. It's not reflected because it's positive. Next thing we need to do is find our period. Well, our period is a b value, so if I bring this down here, a normal period is 2 pi divided by 2. Our period is pi on this one. Phase shift, well, phase shift is a variable c, and it kind of looks like it should be a -3 here. However, there are no parentheses, and you cannot add in your own parentheses. The only parentheses here are around the 2x. So there is no phase shift on this problem. There is a midline, and that is d, so y is equal to a -3. So hopefully now you can envision the graph. The size is just 1, the period's pi, it's a shorter period, there is no phase shift, and it's scooted down to -3. Alright, so here we go. Let's go ahead and fill out our table. Well, we know the phase shift, there is none, so it starts at 0. And now we need to do the steps, so we know what to count by. And the steps are pi, because that's our period, divided by 4. So we can use pi over 4. Now, you could probably count this, but if you can't count it, we're going to go over here and do the steps. I'm starting at no pi over 4, so then I go to 1 pi over 4, and 2 pi over 4, and 3 pi over 4, and 4 pi over 4. And then that's what the steps are. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, nice and even. We can simplify them. That would be 4, and this would be pi over 2, and this would be 3 pi over 4, and this would be, that would just be pi. All right, outputs, maybe I should have done this first, but the amplitude is 1, so I'm just going to multiply my 0 times 1 is 0, and 1 times 1 is 1, and 0 times 1 is 0, and -1, and 0. I usually recommend you start here, but it will work out either way. So now we have a table, and now all we need to do is graph it. So let's go ahead and go over to the graph. And if you forget these steps, remember I have a good little chart right here on the reference sheet that should help. So, all right, here we go. Let's go ahead and graph this table. I'm going to move it to the side here, and we'll come back to it, but let's go ahead and get this graph done. Maybe I can put it right here for us. How do we make a graph? Well, first we do the midline. Well, where is the midline on this graph? The midline is at -3, so I'm going to go ahead, and it kind of helps sometimes if I turn my paper here, so let's see here. -3, that is our midline, and you want to mark that so you don't forget what it is. Next is our phase shift. Well, there is no phase shift in this one, so our graph is starting. I'm going to go ahead and mark this here, but anyways, this is where our graph is starting, just right on that axis. And the next thing we want to do is talk about our max and midline. Well, how high up does this graph go? Oh, we forgot to do that over here. We forgot to change these outputs right here, because look at this midline right here. This midline says everything is shifted down 3, so this would be a -3. This would be a -2, and this would be a -3, and this would be a -4, and this would be a -3. And that's why I always tell people do this first right here. That way you don't forget to do that, because I almost forgot to do this on my graph. So maybe go ahead and do the outputs first here next time, and that's exactly what we said right here. Do your y values first. All right, so let's get back to this. We have our graph, and what is our maximum point? Well, if you look at it, the maximum point it goes up to is -2. And that should make sense right here, because if our amplitude is 1, then it can only go up 1 space. And if the amplitude is 1, it can only go down 1 space. So now our graph is set up. We are set up to get everything done. Our sine wave is going to wave between these two lines around the midline. All right, so let's go ahead and plot the points. First point, starting at, let's see, what do we have here? 0 and -3. Well, that's right here. All right, and our next point on here goes over to pi over 4. Well, pi over 4 is not on this graph, but we could figure it out. But maybe I go to this next point, pi over 2, and that's right there. And then so pi over 4 would be here, and we want to mark that on our graph. So I'm going to drop this down here and say this point right here is pi over 4. And hopefully you can see the pattern, what's going to happen. This graph's going to go up, then down, and then in 3 spots, 1, 2, 3, by the time we get to pi, it's going to go up and down again. And again, we want to mark this spot. This is not on our graph, so let's make sure we label this critical point. This is 3 pi over 4. And that is one wave of our sine function. So now all you have to do is complete the rest of it. Well, there's a pattern here. It goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You'll get faster at doing these, but I go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then it goes up, down in those 3 dots. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, up, down in those 3 dots. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and forever inside those dots. And going backwards, we'll do the same thing. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and do them all. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, and just keep the same pattern. It goes up, and now we're going down to here, then we're going to go up and down and up, down, up, and down and up, and down all the way. And I'll go ahead and label these points, or put these points on here. Those are our critical points. And again, we always want to label. Let's get in the habit of labeling the first period to the right, first period to the left. Well, what would this point be? Well, this point would be a negative pi over 4. This point's negative pi over 2. And this point, if I drop this down here, it's negative 3 pi over 4. So just go ahead and label it the first wave to the left, first wave to the right. There's your graph. If you have highlighter, colored pencils or something, go back over it. It'll make it a lot neater. If you just go all the way up and down, and you'll see the way the sine wave is going. All right, I hope this helps. The key is always go back and make this table. Take the time to fill out all these points. Take the time to determine what the variables are doing to the transformations of the graph, and always use a reference sheet if you need to. All right, I hope this helps.